Hello everyone. Today I'm gonna react about a video. The topic is going green should not be this hard, and this was published by a YouTube channel named Vox. So this is a wonderful video. I just watched the front part of it, maybe for 1 minute, and I found it really interesting. So I thought of why not to share that with you guys. So yeah, let's begin watching this video. It's wonderful, I guess.
Tried to recycle. I've got my Okay, so I tried to recycle. I've got my grocery tote bag. I even have solar panels on my roof. But in the back of my mind, I can't help thinking, does any of this actually make a difference when it comes to climate change?
Okay, talking about climate change, I don't know if he wanted some answer, but I feel like climate change. The individual can make a difference. It's all about uh, one step at a time, and if one individual is aware, then he can aware his family. His or family can aware his another few peoples. So it's all about awareness from one individual to another. So it's the individual awareness obviously creates some difference. We learn by seeing things. So if someone sees that I am doing something for the nature, then of course he can also be influenced. So that's my take on this. This reminds me of the Tom and Jerry tune, and the last part of the tune. I think this was the same tune, I guess. Yeah, let's begin now. Climate Lab.
If you read the headlines, you quickly begin to see that climate change is a massive problem. So is my reusable bag really going to change the world? But not everyone feels that way.
This is all of my trash from the past 4 years.
Oh my god.
I think that's my trash in an hour. If I can say that. But still, this much of trash in
Going to change
all of my trash from the past 4 years.
Oh my god. This is Lauren Singer.
in 4 years? Kidding me, dude? How can someone be that initiate the zero waste challenge? Wow.
She runs a website where she gives tips and answers questions about living a zero waste life. Okay, so you've got tiny little ends and bits and things.
Yeah.
You really telling me everything else that you use for 4 years you found some other use for?
Totally is compostable, infinitely reusable, or 100% easily recyclable.
You may look at the extremely eco-friendly way Lauren is living and find it inspiring. Or maybe like me, you're totally skeptical. But a lot of what she's doing is actually pretty simple. When she wants coffee, she brings her own cup. Or let's say she wants to buy a pastry, she'll put it into a reusable cotton bag. A safety razor instead of plastic ones. There's all...
This way you can save a lot of money as well. This is a minimalistic thinking or minimalistic approach to life, and this is a sustainable way of living as well. And this is one of the principles of living sustainably, which is living a minimalist life. And we have written so many blogs on it. Still, I have written maybe like 40-50 articles and blogs on zero waste and on minimalistic living, on eco-friendly tips, tricks, eco-friendly products, and how can one start to live sustainable life. Still, I'm not able to be that much of conscious on my use. And when I saw her that using so much less, let's see how much waste, it's only this much of waste in the past 4 years, and that's totally commendable. And that this requires a lot of consciousness to that's great way to live. And I don't know if I could ever will be able to do that, but still that's very awesome approach. Wow.
A bad day, wasn't it, for you?
No, actually, someone sent that to me in the mail.
These aren't huge trash problems. The EPA isn't up in arms about plastic straws, but you can see how these little bits of waste can really add up. The United States is the #1 trash-producing country in the world. If every country lived like the US, we'd need over 4 Earths to make all the stuff we consume.
Do you think little things make a big difference?
Totally. If you reduce single-use coffee cups from your routine and you're a daily coffee drinker, that's 365 cups per year. That's not an insignificant change. If every single person did that, that's a massive shift towards a more sustainable future.
And good policy can encourage this kind of shift. Take plastic bags. Americans throw away about
I feel like the coffee companies like Starbucks, they should be trying to do this approach, because if the people would bring their own uh, coffee cups, then of course the cost will be also down, I guess, because the plastic cups also adds some amount of money to the companies. So if the people would bring their own cups, so they could the companies could also you know give some discount to such individuals, and of course that would be a kind of fashion as well, and people would really love to know do the same things, because we all love to get with the trend. So I think with the great marketing and advertisement effort, such big companies like Starbucks could obviously do that. And if they could bring on big influencers, bring on big influencers with them, and if big influencers do the same stuff, then of course people gonna copy it, and that's how the change gonna happen. So I totally the way she is living, if it's true, then that's very commendable, and I totally admire that thing.
100 billion a year. But California is trying to change this. 3 communities have found that if you offer a plastic bag for free, 75% of people will take it. But if you charge 10 cents for a bag, only 16% take it. It's subtle, but this small fee makes people question whether they really need a bag, and it reminds people to bring their own.
Wow, that's great way. I think business should apply this thing, because they can earn more revenue as well, and people can be more conscious if they have to pay more money for some bags. And the same thing happens in the stores in Nepal as well. If we have to if we go into big stores, then of course we have to pay extra bucks for the bags, and which are made up of, I guess, polythene bags, so that are also not much renewable still. If I have to buy it for almost like $1, then of course I'm gonna bring the bags from my home. So I think that makes people more conscious, and business to business also, they could increase their revenue. So I think business should increase this and do this more, and in the same time they're increasing their revenue, and they are helping the nature in some aspect. So yeah, great way, and I learned this right now, and it's a great idea and way to reduce.
Communities across the country are beginning to adopt this policy, and it could create a large-scale shift. If New York City had a bag fee, we could save roughly 7 billion plastic bags a year. And without good policy, it can be really hard to do the right thing. So take recycling. In a place like Missoula, Montana, where I live, you can't recycle glass because doing so, it turns out, costs my city too much.
I think this is a fundamental flaw of governments and their relationship with businesses. Businesses aren't held accountable for products that they're putting into the waste stream. So they're allowed to sell glass in Montana where there's no adequate recycling and completely wipe their hands free and not have to subsidize any infrastructure to adequately recycle their product. So that responsibility for disposing of that product falls on you as a resident and the government. That is completely unfair.
Exactly what she said is totally true. Without the proper regulations and rules, the big level of impact is impossible, because if we don't really have to do things, then we always try to run away from responsibility. And if business produce a glass or maybe a bag, plastic bags, then of course if they don't have to be accountable, and if they don't have to be responsible, then of course no one will be responsible without the proper rules and regulations. So what she told is very true, and government plays a big role, can play a big role in minimizing the use of plastic bags, and promote reusable and recyclable items. And that's what she said is totally true.
The funny thing is, we used to have this really great system for dealing with glass. After you're done with a bottle, you would just return it. Companies would clean it and use it again and again. Around the 1950s, companies began experimenting with single-use bottles and cans. Lots of other things became single-use too. Like Don Draper here, people were just tossing their garbage wherever, and all this trash started to annoy people.
Do you remember that very famous commercial of this Native American? He's like going down a river and there's all this waste and tear goes down.
People start pollution. People can stop it.
And it's often credited for quote-unquote cleaning up America because we were reminded that we need to pick up our trash.
You see this commercial every Earth Day, but it was actually funded by a group of companies, many of them from the can and bottle industry. They were worried that states would ban their single-use products because people were getting sick of all the trash.
So they created this incredible ad, which is very powerful, which made us pick up trash, which was actually trash that they were creating.
And selling to us.
Yeah,
profiting off of
it actually shifted. That was the moment. I'm not suggesting you shouldn't pick up trash, but as far as I can tell, it was the first moment where
What they said is totally true. Business where, sharing the responsibility, their responsibility to the consumer by that advertisement. And what the guy said is also true. It does not mean that we should not pick up the trash, but the real responsibility to pick up the trash is to someone who produced that and manufactured and sold it to the consumer. They made profit from us by selling that bottle or that the thing which is totally waste. So by that advertisement, what they did was they shared the responsibility, and they didn't exactly share it as well. They gave all the responsibility to the consumer to just do the necessary stuff, and that's advertisement, I guess. That's marketing. That's 21st century.
where we shifted this responsibility from the person selling to the person buying.
That needs to change really quick. And once it does, we won't even have to talk about providing adequate recycling systems because businesses will create products that are easily and conveniently recyclable because it'll make more economic sense for them if that burden is put on the business instead of the consumer and the government.
This gets to the heart of the matter. Climate change is a giant problem. We're not going to solve it without government and industry taking action. We live in this complicated web of carbon emissions. I mean, every single thing we do as individuals creates pollution. It's overwhelming. But there's one simple policy that could make going green easier for all of us, and it could have an enormous impact. We could put a price on carbon. Right now, companies can emit as much pollution as they like. We're basically treating our sky like a giant sewer. As long as it's free to pollute, no one's going to stop doing it.
You can't just go out there and find one source or one factory, one business, and shut it down and clean up your air. Everybody, in a sense, is...
Wow. What that guy said is, it's awesome. We have to, put a price on the emission. And that is great approach. And, if there is a price on emission, of course, then the businesses would obviously lower their emission or find ways to just equalize those emissions with something green. They may buy equipments which are pollution control, and they will find out ways to just reduce the emission if that costs you money. But if that does not cost you anything, then of course they would not care and they would do anything that will be more profitable. So yeah, that's a great way to do, putting cost on pollution and emission. Wow.
is part of the problem.
If companies had to pay for the carbon they produce, it would encourage better behavior. This is what California did in 2006. The state set a cap on carbon and other greenhouse gas emissions, and they lowered it over the next few years. Companies could either reduce their pollution or pay for carbon allowances. And so far, it's worked. The state is on track to hit its 2020 goal, and they're looking to cut emissions by another 40% by 2030. Now, California isn't perfect, but this is a huge reduction in emissions. It's really larger than anything a person could achieve on their own.
The fears that were raised by opponents have not come to pass. We've not seen an exodus of industries from California or people unable to drive their cars.
And as the state cut emissions, California's economy has actually grown by 12%, outpacing the national average. Going green at this scale isn't an overnight process. People like Mary Nichols have spent decades fighting for better policies.
We certainly have enjoyed a lot of political support from all sides. I think that's largely just because the public in California has demanded that clean, healthy air is something that everybody ought to have access to.
So individual climate action does matter in the sense that it creates cultural change. When Lauren makes a video,
pollution is everywhere now. Pollution has reached to the peak. Emission has reached to the peak now. The globalization, the industrialization has created so much of pollution, and it's very being heavy for Earth as well. And now of course the awareness is also growing, but still it's not to that level that people are changing themselves, and the industry are doing something in the big impact, in the big level that could significantly decrease the emissions. Even the government, I don't see they've been taking such a big leap or making some big regulations. So only the awareness will not work. Only some organizations, some part of the country to just do some awareness, make some rally and such stuff will not work, because this has been happening since so long, and still there is not much of big regulations or big impact that's been seen by doing this. Some bigger initiative to be taken, and that could only be happen if the country is gonna do, and country is gonna make regulations, not only one part of the world, but almost being everyone together, making an international law so that everyone could follow it. Only if such things are being made, and such agreements are being made, then some significant level of reductions in emissions will be seen. Otherwise, I think it's very hard. I feel this, and I've seen some research and statistics, and what she was said is also, she was like maybe 40-50, maybe she's been working since in this field of climate change and awareing people since 25-30 years, and now she's almost like 60-65 years. In the span of 30 years, maybe so many individuals like her have done so much of work, but this thing is more than an individual. This thing should be done something by the country, something by the government. So yeah, individual also should be aware, but still government plays a big role. Rules and regulations plays a big role in cutting out emissions, making some level of changes that's necessary now.
a tutorial or shares one of her zero waste tips on Instagram, it has a social ripple effect.
Do you want everyone to live the lifestyle you're living?
I would never tell anyone how to live their life. But I'd like to show everyone that there are options, that the way that we're told we have to live in this hyper-consumeristic way isn't the only way we have to live in order to live in a modern world with modern luxuries.
Folks like Lauren really help build the bottom-up support you need for large-scale transformation. Look, climate policy can be complicated and sometimes it can be boring, but we need it to solve global warming. And to get better policies, like a price on carbon, you need to have public support. Because politicians and businesses won't take action unless people come together and demand it. So you may not be able to fit all your trash into a mason jar, but psychologists have been developing green nudges that trick us into being more green. Want to know whether they're working their magic on you? Visit climate.universityofcalifornia.edu to learn more.
Wow, that was a great video.